In the last video, we talked about the gap between knowing and doing, the painful experience of acting against our own wisdom. And I said that this gap is not random, it follows patterns. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you three specific patterns. These are three types of contradictions, and I can almost guarantee you're experiencing at least two of them right now. By end of this video, you'll be able to diagnose your own contradiction patterns with precision, not vague self-awareness, but clear, specific understanding of exactly what's happening. And that precision matters because you can't solve a problem you can't see clearly. So let's get specific. The first type is the values actions gap. This is when you clearly know what matters to you, you can articulate your values, but your actions consistently conflict with those values. Let me give you some examples, and I want you to notice if any of these sound familiar. Health. You value your health. You intellectually understand that your body is important. You know that exercise and good nutrition and sleep matter. And yet, you don't exercise regularly. You eat foods that don't serve you. You stay up too late scrolling your phone. It's not that you don't value health. You do. You absolutely do. But if someone looked at your actions, not your intentions, they would conclude that you don't value it at all. That's values actions gap. Relationships. You value deep connection. You want meaningful relationships with people you care about. And yet, you don't make time for them. You cancel plans. You stay surface level in conversations. You let months go by without reaching out to people who matter to you. Again, it's not that you don't value relationships. You do. But your actions don't reflect that value. Learning and growth. You value learning. You're intellectually curious. You want to develop new skills. And yet, the books you buy sit unread. The courses you purchased remain unfinished. The time you could spend learning, you spend on things that don't actually matter to you. You value growth, but you are not growing. Here is what makes this type of contradiction so painful. You are not confused about what you want. You know what you value, but somehow that knowledge does not translate into consistent action. And every time you act against your own values, you accumulate a little more self-doubt, a little more evidence that you cannot trust yourself. Now, before we move on, I want you to do something. Take a moment and ask yourself, where in my life do I see values, actions gap? Where do I clearly know what matters, but my actions don't align? Got one? Good. Hold on to that. We will come back to it. The second type of contradiction is called understanding application gap. This is different from type 1. With type 1, the problem is translating your values into consistent actions. With type 2, the problem is applying your understanding in the moment it matters, especially under pressure. Let me explain what I mean. Communication. You understand healthy communication principles. Maybe you have read the books. Maybe you have done therapy. You can articulate clearly what good communication looks like. You know you should use I statements. You know you should listen without interrupting. You know you should stay calm and curious rather than defensive. And yet, when you are actually in conflict, when emotions are running high, all of that knowledge evaporates. You snap, you interrupt, you get defensive, you say things you regret. And afterwards you think, why did I do that? I know better. I literally teach other people how to communicate well. This isn't about not knowing what to do. You know exactly what to do. The problem is under pressure, you cannot access that knowledge. You cannot apply it. Let's talk about emotional regulation. You understand that reacting from anger or fear usually makes things worse. You know that taking a breath and responding thoughtfully is better. And yet, when you're triggered, when someone pushes your buttons, you react immediately. The thoughtful response you know you should give never appears even as an option. Let's talk about boundaries. You understand that setting boundaries is healthy. You know that saying no to things that drain you is important. You can explain to friends why boundaries matter. And yet, when someone actually asks something of you, when you are in the moment, you say yes, even though you know you shouldn't, even though you can feel yourself overcommitting. The understanding is there, but it does not translate to actions when it matters most. Here is what makes this type so frustrating. You're not ignorant, you're not lacking information, you actually understand the right approach. But that understanding does not translate into behavior under pressure. It's like knowing the theory of how to swim, but still sinking when you get in the water. So again, pause and ask yourself, where do I understand the principle but can't apply it under pressure? What do I know intellectually but cannot execute emotionally? Got one? Hold on to that. The third type is complex decision paralysis. And this one is different from the first two. With type 1 and type 2, you know what you should do. The problem is doing it. But with type 3, the problem is you have multiple important factors and you cannot figure out how to integrate them into a decision. You're not avoiding action out of weakness. You're genuinely stuck because the situation is complex. Let me give you some examples. Career decisions. You are trying to decide whether to take a new job. On one hand, the new position offers more money and status. That matters. On the other hand, the current job is better work life balance and you have strong relationships. That matters too. And there is also the question of long term growth. Which path actually serves your deeper goals? What about your family? How does this decision impact them? You're not lacking information. You have done the research, you have the spreadsheets, but you still cannot decide because you can't figure out how to weigh these important competing factors. Do you prioritize money, growth, balance, relationships? The answer is not clear, so you stay stuck. Relationship decisions. Should you stay in a relationship or leave? These are real problems. Things are not working. You are not happy. But there is also history, shared investments, good times mixed with bad, potential for growth. You have made lists, you have talked to friends, you have done therapy, and yet you still don't know what to do. Not because you are weak or indecisive, but because the situation genuinely involves competing goods and competing costs. How do you weigh love against compatibility, history against future potential, comfort against growth, life transitions? Should you make a major life change, move cities, change careers, go back to school? Every option has merit, every option has cost. You can see the upside of each path. You can also see the downsides. And the more you analyze, the more paralyzed you become. Because this isn't a simple choice between good and bad. It's a complex choice between multiple goods, each with different costs. Here is what makes this different. With type 1 and type 2, more clarity would help. If you would just see your values more clearly or apply your understanding better, the path would be obvious. But with type 3, you already have the clarity. You see the situation clearly. The problem is the situation itself is genuinely complex and you don't have a system for integrating all the factors. You're trying to solve a complex integration problem with just your conscious mind, and your conscious mind gets overwhelmed. So, one more time, where in your life are you facing complex decisions that involve multiple important factors? Where do you have the information but cannot integrate it into a clear choice? Got one? Okay. Now, here is what I want you to understand. Most people have all three types happening in different areas of their lives. You might have a values actions gap around health, an understanding application gap around communication, and a complex decision paralysis around your career. This is normal. You are not broken. In fact, recognizing which type you are dealing with in each area is incredibly valuable information because each type has a different root cause, which means each type needs a different approach. Trying to solve a values actions gap with more information does not work. You don't need more information. You need better integration between what you know and what you do. Trying to solve understanding application gap with more analysis doesn't work. You don't need more understanding. You need the capability under pressure. And trying to solve complex decision paralysis with more willpower does not work. You don't need more determination. You need a better system for integration. And that's exactly what Contradiction-Free Living framework provides. 3 foundational capabilities and 4 constitutional principles that address all 3 types systematically. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. So now you can diagnose your contradictions precisely. You know if you're facing values action gap, an understanding application gap, or complex decision paralysis, or more likely, all 3 in different areas. But here is the question you're probably asking. Okay, I see my patterns now, but why haven't the obvious solutions worked? Why hasn't willpower solved the values action gap? Why hasn't more knowledge solved the understanding application gap? Why hasn't more analysis solved the complex decision paralysis? And that is what we are covering in the next video. Because once you understand why the obvious solutions fail, you will understand why contradiction-free living framework actually works. So if you want to understand why willpower, self-criticism, and motivation haven't solved your contradictions, and if you want to know what actually does work, click into the video number 3, Why Willpower Fails. The link is in the description. I will see you there.